Greetings, family. Welcome to the African Exodus show. I'm your host, Tierney Cherie, here to you with a new video. Before we get started with today's segment, I want to remind you, if you have not already added yourself to my Telegram, that's the best way to stay connected outside of YouTube. Also there, I'm easy to message. I get back quicker, and also any type of videos that I don't want to post on YouTube right now, I'm posting on Telegram. So you can add yourself there. It's just a link inside of the description. Literally, it takes you right to the app and you just download it. In addition, if you would like to support this channel, you could do so on my Patreon. There you'll also receive a weekly exclusive just for you. I want to talk today about luxury, how we have accepted a narrative that things that at one time were a luxury, sometimes at one time was innovative, at one time was out of the box, things that never were supposed to be independence for us, have all of a sudden became a necessity. And when a luxury becomes a necessity, in many ways, you have committed idolatry. And I say that because you have taken something that really is not necessary to live. So, for example, cell phones, we'll say, right? Cell phones, at one time, there were no cell phones. Literally, go back 30, 40 years, no one had a cell phone. All of a sudden, people feel deep within their members that they cannot go a few hours without their cell phone. People would have literal panic attacks. That's literally been something that has been reported about people who are without their cell phone. They forget their cell phone just for a few hours. That is idolatry. That cell phone, you have made it into something that it was never. You have turned it into something that it was never supposed to be. Always you should have a detachment from these things. Technology is great, obviously. Technology makes things easier for us, but technology was never supposed to be seen as something for us to live on. Keep in mind, we're not even supposed to have a position towards things like bread. We don't live on bread alone. We live on every word that comes out of the mouth of Yahuwah. And yet, so many things in our mind we have transformed to being something that has to exist. Otherwise, we will fade into non-existence. So this one article I saw, I wanted to talk about it because it, to me, is a good example of how we have taken things that come from the society around us, the Western society, the technological society, things that were created as new and innovative, now becoming something that we look at as we can't live without. We're going to talk about bottled water. Bottled water because it's something that a lot of people, particularly I'll say in Africa, one time it was not something that was widely used, but it's everywhere now. And I know it's the same pretty much everywhere in America, everywhere, but even in Africa, like people who would used to drink, let's say water from the well, for example, or water from a borehole or water from the tap, maybe you boil it first, have this mindset, all because of what propaganda has done. They have a mindset that the bottled water is cleaner, it's going to kill you to drink the other water, even if it's in plastic. And I know here in Ghana and brothers and sisters from other places in the diaspora, you can tell me if this is the case for you. In Ghana, there's the bottled water, but also there's the sachet. So it's like literal like plastic, which has contaminants. I mean, bottled water too, but it's literal contaminants inside of these plastics. And yet, in their mind, this is safer than things that have always been safe, right? So this is a problem because we're finding that these things that are given to us from this technological society almost have an innate purpose to wipe us out. And we don't think that these people who are putting these things out there, whether it's the cell phones, because cell phones, radiation, the 5G, and again, bottled water, so much of the foods, the GMO foods, the things that come from factory farming, all of these things are having one singular effect. The makeup, the nail polish, all of these things have one singular effect. That is early death. Why do you think it is that so many of these things are being linked to early death? Are we supposed to take that as a coincidence? Are we supposed to think that these people are corrupting things that come from Yah for no reason at all? So let's go into this article. I wanted to read it. Bottled water discovered to contain thousands of invisible plastic pieces which can seep into your bloodstream. A new study found people are consuming 250,000 of tiny invisible pieces of plastic with every liter of bottled water, 10 to 100 times more than previously estimated. 1 liter of water in a plastic bottle has been found to contain an average of 240,000 particles, research said on Monday. Most of the nanoparticles, which have the potential to penetrate human cells and gain entry into the bloodstream and major organs. So the groundbreaking findings were published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences journal, and they showed that the extent of plastic in bottled water, which was highly undervalued in previous studies. While microplastics have been found everywhere from the deepest points in the ocean to our bodies from as early as birth, each bottle was earlier believed to contain only 325 pieces on average. So let's just think about that. Any, consumption of plastic, you would think, not a good thing. But to go from 325 pieces on average for a bottle of water to 240,000 particles per liter. Crazy. Now, this new study by researchers from Colombia shows the presence of plastic particles is approximately 100 times more than that, challenging the previously accepted norms surrounding bottled water safety. Most of these particles were coming from the bottle itself, according to the authors. These are particles that are less than a micron in size. Researchers used 5 samples from 3 brands of bottled water in the U.S. and found that the plastic particle range from 110,000 to 400,000 per liter, averaging around 240,000 from 7 types of plastics. Researchers had to invent a technology to quantify these tiny particles to be able to count and analyze the chemical structure of nanoparticles in bottled water. Some scientists knew nanoplastics existed in bottled water, but before our study, people didn't have a precise number of how many. Now, that point I want to emphasize because there are things that we don't know the effects of as of yet. We don't know the effects of cell phones. We don't know the effects of 5G. We don't know the effects of so many of the things that we're eating. But what I'm starting to realize, there's a correlation between something that is other than what was original to man, something that was other than what you would be able to do without government, without industry. For example, going outside, having a borehole or having a well, something outside of that. Some type of innovative way to make your life easier. Oh, now I don't have to dig that. Now I don't have to worry about that. I can just go and find a bottle of water. All of these things are pointing to a fact that the idea that ease and convenience are positive is actually not true. The ease and convenience that comes particularly with us becoming linked and dependent on a system that relies on you being lazy. Because let's be real, the biggest reason why we're being taken advantage of left and right is pure laziness. Many of us can't even get the strength to try to make small life changes, let alone major life changes. And so they rely on the fact that many of us are like, man, I know this is bad for me, but I don't have time to figure it out. I'm too busy at my 9 to 5 trying to make ends meet. They rely on this and they're getting their result that they have intended. They intended for the fact that you would submit to them, submit to their system. And because of that, they would be making decisions that affect your health while you are off trying to make ends meet, off trying to juggle the struggles and the cares of life. They have made decisions about products that they're going to use. And I don't believe that they did not anticipate that these things could have negative health effects. Again, I believe very well that there's an intentional agenda to shorten the lifespan of particularly people in the African continent, but people throughout the world, really. They want to get their population down, as things like the Georgia Guidestones has shown us. So for me in particular, I'm going to continue making affirmative steps to get myself back to a natural living environment. And again, this is not something that is necessarily easy to do all at once, but I just encourage everyone, Even if it starts with just something simple as getting a filtration device, something simple as, okay, I'm just going to only drink bottled water if I have no other option. But if I'm at home and I have the option to, boil water and purify it, let me do that. So simple steps are better than no action, better than accepting what they're giving you, better than accepting the world that they've created for us. Now, there's going to be a day that all of these things, this is the interesting thing, there's going to be a day that all of the ease and the convenience is gone. There's going to be a day, if you are a believer in Yahusha, where every single thing that has been given to you to give you a comfort, make you feel like you don't have to worry or stress about things like food and water. All of the conveniences of life are going to disappear. And the quicker that you start thinking about what your actual necessities are, food, water, shelter, as soon as you start thinking of those things, hygiene, start really thinking about these things and like, okay, if the system were to implode, how would I be able to access these things without the system? The quicker that you start making those plans, the more secure you will feel. And the more you will revert back to a life in a world where we did not depend on a system, but instead we had more comfort in depending on the Most High. So this is an encouragement to you all. Trust me, I don't say these things from the position of preachiness, because I myself have been making more affirmative steps to say, okay, let me realize that this is not right. Let me realize that something's wrong with this. Let me realize that drinking bottled water, like particularly when I'm at home, that shouldn't be something that I do. Let me go and buy a filter and do something that I can do affirmatively to get out of the system that they have us in. These are things that we all need to take serious, and I'm right there with you all, encouraging you that, listen, we can all make better steps in order to separate ourselves from this system, because again, there's going to be a day when we don't have a choice.
That we don't learn how to grow our own food. How do we trust our oppressor to feed us? And why is it that we got to eat all these GMO seeds? And we don't know how to. We don't control the stuff that makes us live. We don't know who makes our food, our medicine. We generally don't own our buildings. We're here. We're just renting life, and that's the way they want it. And we're not conscious of that. So we have to learn the fundamentals, and we can't forget that in history we were winning, and we can't let them erase that. So even down to the way we interpret the name Jesus, that's a European interpretation of the name. His name is Joshua. Why no one calls me Damien, anything but Damon wherever I go in the world? Why would we have to now say somebody's name with a European interpretation of the name and it didn't happen in Europe? That doesn't make sense other than control. How could you tell, if somebody tells me they're a fan of mine and they calling me Damien, I'm going to be like, my name's Damien. How could you really be a fan of mine? You're not calling me by my real name. So how could you get a full blessing? You're calling this man by his wrong name, because we've been programmed to. You understand what I'm saying?